And we all know I've never been this lucid and deductive before.
That's for sure.
Welcome back to the Odyssey Geek podcast. This is episode number 2, and happy April Fool's Day. And you know what that means. It's time to listen to I Slap Floor. If you haven't already, now's a really good time to do so, because today I'm going to be doing a commentary on the episode while it's playing. Now, I'm not going to have the actual episode in this podcast, so you'll have to provide your own episode to listen along with me. So while I listen to this episode, I'll be commenting on certain aspects of it and maybe throwing out some trivia and some of my opinions about the show. Are you ready? Let's get started. And starting in 3, 2, 1. Now, this used to be my least favorite version of the Odyssey theme song, but it's actually kind of growing on me after I've been listening to a lot of the episodes from this era. Really weird stuff. Fun and weird stuff. What? Tom sounds kind of like how when they have in that the preview they have before the show in Opportunity Knocks, where he talks about, or he keeps denying, says no, are we gonna have electricity at this party? No, and that kind of stuff. Nice, peaceful, gentle music there. How many times has Wade gotten sick? That's probably one of the quickest intros to one of Bernard's stories. Usually there's a little more of a build-up. Okay, so I think it's really unfair to Richard's character that he shows up in this episode without a reason, basically. We haven't heard him since Stars for Dawn, album 25. And this is all he's talking about, like, are you feeling okay? Like, do you have any repercussions from that fall you had? Nothing like that. Wow, a lot of job openings in Odyssey. I love Bernard's asides. Open up all the windows, Bernard. Open up all the windows. That might help. Yeah. Very unwit-like. Thought Connie did a lot of that stuff for you. What can? he has wits in Connellsville. He can take over the Timothy Center and call it the Jerry Center. I made the rules. The Electric Palace carries ice scrapers? I don't think there's any mention in this episode of what time of the year this happens. Maybe it's on clearance or something. I would have liked to know more about Bard's parents and Doris's parents. Like, what kind of things happened to make them like they are? But we kind of get a sense of that in no, I was gonna say Sticks and Stones, but I guess that's actually just a flashback to when Bart was a kid. I wish we had a video of Walker Edmondson doing his Bart and Tom voice, like switching back and forth, like what kind of facial expressions he made as Bart versus Tom. So would Tom still live on the farm? I wonder how Connie Eugenia is doing. Which Eugene would know, Donde está el baño, from the Cross the Cortez experience. It's one of the very first Spanish words I ever learned as a kid. Really? Her long teenage life. And Whitson isn't a person. I love the music in this. This is such an odd scene, and I'm sure it really grates on people's nerves. The people that wanted Connie and Jean to actually get married. uh, and what's odd, Sarah's not even questioning it. But then again, most people don't question wit. Which I find it really funny that they have Edwin dressed as Willy Wonka on the front of the album. Actually, that artwork is like a really great representation of this episode. You know, I didn't really notice it until now, but Shakespeare is not in this episode. He's usually in the episode with Edwin. So I'm wondering if he was affected by the cologne. How would he act? Would he act not as stuffy and polite anymore? Would he finally say to Edwin, your acting stinks. Get someone else to cover for your awful mistakes. Bringing up old history there. It's so odd I can't even. That's going to be a really long acronym, but I'm sure Doris can make one for him. I don't know if he's sounding kind of like ashamed there, or if it's like it's not quite believing what he's saying there, like apologizing. A lot of things happened when she was 16, like several years worth. Like what, for 10 years almost she was 16? It seems to have sharpened Connie's IQ some. She knows that word, what that means. So, did Miss Turner, I know this is Bernard's story, but in What Are You Gonna Do With Your Life, Harlow says his last secretary had a nervous breakdown, so did she come back? Definitely forgot about Malachi. And I didn't really notice this much until I think I heard this episode the last time, but the guy looked like the guy who checks his gas meter. So maybe he was actually hallucinating because of a gas leak or something, but it's the cologne, probably. Don't stomp on my dreams, wit. I'm sure Walker Edmondson had a lot of fun playing Tom in this episode. So it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense that Margaret isn't actually in this episode. It's kind of odd. Maybe the actor didn't have the availability to record because this is already a pretty big cast. But maybe the way they wrote this is that she'd rather have Edwin, her future husband, do all the talking for her now. So I guess that could be a writing thing, or it could be a actor availability thing. No, really, can you really resign from being a mayor and then appoint someone else? I don't think that's how it's done. Even without weird perfume, most people don't admit that they're wrong. Trip to the emergency room. Please, Miss Kendall, not in front of the door. I love how they poke fun at Eugene and Katrina's relationship up to this point. So, Dreams by Constance isn't doing the wedding planning? Just wait, there'll be automobile chases and explosions in Odyssey in a few albums. I know this is referencing the Strata-Flyer, and I'm actually pretty happy that they poke fun at it. It is kind of an odd contraption. Probably Wit's weirdest inventions, even though it's not in the audio drama series. What killed the dinosaurs was probably Richard's perfume, or cologne. Connie's cooking! I have no idea. Should have seen that coming. What bad advice? And that was never mentioned before. And the music gets sinister. Richard finally gets an evil laugh. I love the sound design here. You can just barely hear like an echo when he's talking, and then it switches back and forth to Blackguard's voice. So he has some kind of voice manipulator too. I know some people may think it's a little bit too much of this episode coming after Blackguard's Revenge, but I think if Blackguard's Revenge hadn't come before this, it probably would have been kind of a letdown. I understand it's a way to use Blackguard, but not actually have him come back to life. Maybe it wasn't Blackguard's clone. Maybe it was just the coronavirus. But is there still Ruku in the tunnels after it's blown up? Or partially? So I'm wondering how much Bernard had this planned. Like, was he just waiting for someone to come in that hasn't been there a while to tell the story? Or did he come up with it on the spot? Busted! So I can't quite remember when I first heard this episode, but I don't think it was on the radio. I think it was in one of the albums, and since I think I'd heard some episodes that happened after this, I don't think I ever really believed that this really happened. I think my parents had to tell me what I slap floor meant, because I don't think I could have figured it out as a kid. But really, this is a really great episode. It's a great way to kind of poke fun at the different tropes about Odyssey and the different character flaws or character arcs. It's a really kind of a crazy episode. Kind of goes along with a lot of split episodes, but in this kind of sense, it makes a little more sense than a split episode. See you later, Chris. And that's a wrap. You got to hear my opinions and thoughts on this episode, but I would love to hear what you thought. For example, when you first heard I Slap Floor, did you think the stuff happening was really happening, or did you think it was a joke? And also, what's the funniest thing that people have done to you on April Fool's Day, or the funniest prank you've pulled on someone? Make sure to let me know. My email is odysseygeek@gmail.com. I'm also on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. I'm at Odyssey Geek. That's ODYSSEYGEEK. Don't forget to subscribe to this podcast, and make sure that you share this podcast with somebody that you know is an Odyssey Geek as well. Thanks for joining me on the special April Fool's edition of the Odyssey Geek podcast. I'll see you next time in episode 3. Bye, guys.